was like a diagnostic hospital.
Janet lets us know when the mail immediately shows up. We're like, Janet, so where's our
I got my package Saturday, I believe.
She's just
It's a little concerning.
and I'm like, I'm really the only one there who's understanding that
they go other
this could be a
I
scary
don't
day.
mind running them around, but
Going,
we have just been getting rid of that,
so when they come,
which is a
I
good
swear
thing.
that I've gone back twice. And
Is he still doing all right?
Ma'am?
Is your daddy still doing okay? John?
Yeah, I
So you
took
were doing
lunch
it for a while.
about 3 o'clock, he
And
was
you
at
skipped
my
the whole
house.
conversation.
He's still peddling.
Good.
He can get away from the
Confirm
Perkins
this.
family
It's
long
like,
enough.
are you Barrett? I'm like, no, I'm Barrett.
Imagine
Back
that.
out. Well, it was like 15 minutes.
No one can.
You're good.
You try
No,
and
we
get
didn't.
right back.
I'm ready to let it go. It's like, glad they confirmed.
But yes, thank you for asking. You need it. I don't know if you've got it or not, but he does on that.
I've never had a problem with him until
He what?
He does
Well,
on
then
property
again,
up there.
because this was like not normal. This was like,
You got all the
so
irritating
I
shows.
always go to Georgetown. Because Georgetown has
We
offices.
fought like cats and dogs, but we love each other.
So I
Think like John.
somehow they put me down for that one.
That's the end, that's all.
And I just got today. So if I go to here, it's like 20 minutes. I go to one, there's always cheese an hour.
Yeah.
At least,
they always come up here back to sell something when
yeah, but you gotta go to Lexington. And you know how they got on the schedule? I don't know.
Yep, let's do it. All right, we're going to go ahead and call the Scott County Board of Adjustments into session this evening, right at almost 5 o'clock. We'll go 4:59, so we're a minute early. But we need to go ahead and do a couple of things. If you plan to speak this evening, if you will stand for me, if you plan to speak, raise your right hand, and Charlie will swear you in. I know I'm doing this out of order, but it's close, Charlie, so we'll get there. Yeah, thanks.
McIntyre helped me.
Yep.
Sign in, Doc.
Do you swear or affirm the statement you're to make tonight to be the truth to the best of your information and belief?
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Who's gonna participate or not?
All right, minutes from the December 5th meeting. I will let some time go by. You guys can look at those unless you already have a decision.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes from December 5th, 2024 with a correction of the first motion being seconded by Barrett instead of McIntyre.
All right, motion is made by Sonia. Need a second?
I'll second.
Janet seconds the motion. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, did McIntyre make that motion?
Yeah, yeah. All approve by saying yes?
Aye.
Aye. All approve by, or all, wow. All right, let's try this again. All approve by saying aye? All non-approved by the same? There are none. Motion carries. All right, let's get past that. First application this evening, S-2025-01.
And y'all have to forgive the text on some of these slides. I'm sure we're on a loaner laptop. Thank you to Young Man Studio 46. So hopefully everything else goes smoothly though. Again, Mr. Dillo, thank you for introducing the application here at 100 Abbey Road. It's a conditional use permit. It's just off Old Oxford. It's a 5-acre parcel south of Newtown, east of Old Oxford Road there. A1 zone as always. Our overall recommendation of the application is approval. Here is the property in question, just confirming the zone, A1. And here's our overhead as well. So our zoning ordinance states home occupations that exceed certain limitations are permissible by permit and approval in the A1 zone. The use that's proposed by this applicant most closely fits this definition. There's an existing 10 by 20 outbuilding on the property to the rear of an detached garage, rather. This gentleman would like to conduct some small batch jelly production. He does have a business currently. He sells at small farmers markets, things of that nature. Just wants to move his operation into a small outbuilding there on the property. There will be no clients or customers on site, no additional employees. As such, there's no hours of operation because there won't be any transactions taking place. Applicant has stated that there won't be any substantial deliveries or shipments going out of the property, so there shouldn't be any impact to the surrounding neighbors whatsoever. This purple square here, or rather rectangle, all squares are rectangles, not all rectangles are squares, is going to be the building as it exists now. The overhead doesn't have it there as of yet on PVA. The building is going to be approximately 70 feet from the property line, again to the rear of an existing garage, also on the other side of some screening, shrubbery, things of that nature. Again, The general public shouldn't even know it's there. Here's a picture of the building. Again, in summary, the project site is a 5-acre A1 parcel. Based on the application that's been submitted, it shouldn't create any nuisance or inhibit, any traffic flow, things of that nature in the neighborhood. Should have no substantial impact. Our zoning ordinance does state that home occupations that exceed certain limitations of such are, conditional use permits in the zone, and the proposed use fits this definition. No new construction or development or infrastructure of any kind will take place for this use. So overall, we are recommending approval of the conditional use permit, and the conditions of approval you see there are essentially all of our standard conditions of approval for conditional use permits. Please abide by all the rules of ourselves, the state, federal, health department, et cetera, whatever is applicable for the operation, and come see us if anything changes or the use expands.
Okay. Any questions for Rhett?
And the applicant is here if you so choose to speak with them.
Any phone calls or concerns from surrounding neighbors?
No, ma'am. It's been a quiet month in this regard, thankfully.
Okay. We actually saw the applicant earlier, but anything you want to add to this, sir?
No, sir.
All right. Any of the neighbors here that want to speak on this application? All right. Rhett, stay right where you're at. In that case, I will entertain a motion for this.
Charlie, you're okay with it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'll make the motion that we approve application number S-2025-01 with the 3 conditions of approval by staff.
Okay. Janet
I
makes the
second.
motion. Tommy seconds the motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor by saying aye. All opposed by the same. There are none. Motion carries.
Thank you all, and I'll let you know, sir, as well as all the rest of the applicants, I'll get you all follow-up letters this coming Monday by email. That way, if you need to take them around to permitting folks or health department or whoever, but I won't be here tomorrow, so you get them Monday, I promise. Okay? If that's a problem, let us know. We'll get it done in office.
And you are welcome to stay with us for the rest of this, or you're free to go, whichever one you want.
I've never been to the zoning board meetings.
You're glutton for punishment,
This one's a
aren't you?
good
All right.
warm-up. Okay, moving right along, we're out here on Rogers Gap Road, 257. This is also a conditional use permit. Technically, it's an expansion of an existing permit out there at what I believe is still known as Whispering Hills RV Park. It's just east of US 25, directly across from Harbor Village Drive is how you get there. It's 33.5 acres, and overall, we all are recommending approval of this application as well. Here is the property in question. Obviously, you know it's a RV park here. A1 zone. And the zoning ordinance to this application reads that public and private parks and recreation areas are conditional uses in the A1 zone. Previously, the board did approve a conditional use permit for said use. And I believe 2018, the property changed hands. At such time, they applied for continuation of the permit as necessitated by the ordinance. They were again approved for continuation, and now this application is an expansion of said permit. This is a rendering of the facility that the applicant has supplied us. To the left side there, you see this small service bar. They plan on installing in an existing building that's on the property. And I'll let the applicant correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's a open-air type pavilion structure. It's already there. It's being used for just general congregation and assembly, things of that nature. Some more elevations. The area in question is enclosed with glass and kind of aluminum storefront type structure. Here's an overhead here. The red box, this drawing supplied by the applicant. The red box denotes what will become the service area. The orange areas the applicant has highlighted as potential parking. Being that this is for only patrons of the park, the general public won't be coming to this service area, anything of that nature. It's been determined that no additional parking will be needed because the people that will be using it are already there. And the applicant has stated that the parking that's there is sufficient for the folks that he has in the park already. So just be coming and going from their campsites. Let's see, I pretty well have covered this already. Service area is within an existing structure. Bar is enclosed with storefront aluminum and glass style windows and things. It's only for patrons of the park, not the general public, so there won't be any additional traffic coming or going from the site. There, as of now, there'll be limited service hours proposed, Thursday through Saturday, 3 to 11 p.m. Applicant has stated that these could change or expand if demand changes, seasonality, things of that nature. Staff has determined that food and beverage service is typically incidental and accessory to RV parks and other recreational areas. As such, staff does not find this as unacceptable expansion of the permit. Again, we're at a 33.5 acre A1 zone property out Rogers Gap Road. Based on the submitted application, the conditional use is not expected to generate any additional traffic, being that it's for people that are already patronizing the park. As such, it shouldn't impact the surrounding area to any noticeable degree. The previous case in 2018 granted the continuation of the conditional use when the property changed hands. No new construction will take place to accommodate the use, and again, food and beverage service are typically incidental to RV parks and other recreational facilities, so staff has deemed that it's an appropriate expansion. Overall, we do recommend approval of the application, and as you saw before, we have our 3 standard conditions of approval, nothing in addition. Mostly, again, complying with the regulations of ourselves and everybody else that's appropriate. And if the use changes or expands, please let us know, and we'll revisit it.
Okay, any questions for Rhett? All right, is the applicant here?
Mr. Sims, did you need to speak, or correct me, please?
I have nothing. Harold Sims, representing Fisherman Hills RV Park. Mr. Travis Ott and his wife are present. I think read succinctly and very clearly indicated to you the application before the board tonight. And on behalf of the applicants, we would urge its approval. Thank you.
Okay, any questions? Any of the neighbors here on this application this evening? Anybody else want to speak on this? If not, I'm going to go ahead and propose a motion that we approve application S-2025-02, taking into account the staff recommendations.
I'll second it.
Sonia Barrett seconds the motions. Any questions or comments? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same. There are none. Motion carries.
Okay, moving right along. Now, a totally different part of the county, out here Miners Branch Road, address number 1197. This is a variance request to reduce the western side yard setback from 50 feet to 15 feet as stated on the application for construction of a workshop. It's north of Stamping Ground via 227, and then you turn left west on Miners Branch. About 28.5 acres out here, A1. Overall, we are recommending approval. So here is the overhead of the property, the main house being, way back there to the east, pretty well off. I think it's about 900 feet or so off. Actually, the house would be closer to 1,000 feet off Miners Branch there. A1 zone. So when we consider variances, both as staff and the board, we must consider KRS 100-243. There's essentially 3 items to go along with the consideration that the variance, granting of a variance will not adversely affect the safety, health, and welfare of the general public or the surrounding area, et cetera. We also must consider whether the requested variance arises from special circumstances, which generally do not apply to land in the same vicinity or zone, that the strict application of the provisions of the regulation would deprive the applicant of reasonable use of the land or would create an unnecessary hardship on the applicant, and finally, that the circumstances are results of the actions of the applicant, taken subsequent, I can't do that word ever, to the adoption of the zoning regulations from which relief is sought. And lastly, we just got to make sure that these aren't the consequences of the applicant's own actions, that they aren't creating the hardship on themselves. Darren, you and I will get it together eventually. This is a really good illustrative item here. It's the topography of the property here. What I kind of refer to as the 2 eyes and a nose, right here. This is the proposed building site of the workshop. This is the site of the existing home. As you can see by the topography of the area, as the lines get closer, the slope gets worse. In some areas of this portion of the parcel, you lose as much as 100 feet in elevation really quickly, and also under the adjoining parcel is very similar. Over a similar distance moving south, you do also lose about 60 feet of elevation as you go. Here in the rear, while you'll see it is a clear area, it's a little misleading because it is somewhat of a narrow valley to the rear of the home. So the proposed building site, as stated by the applicant and supported by the United States Geographical Service surveys, do support this information that is a flat spot. The rest of the land just isn't that way. The front green area here, the applicant has stated they typically use for grazing of cattle and other ag purposes. The pink box there, you like that? I found that today.
Yeah,
Didn't know
nice.
you could do that till today.
Yeah, well,
The pink box there is the proposed location of the workshop. The blue dashed line, there's a water line that runs along the driveway that kind of impedes any further distance off the property line to lessen the variance or the need for a variance. The green box, again, towards the rear being the existing home. Well, actually, rather, that's the septic field approximately behind the home as it exists. Those yellow triangles up top just kind of denote the slope of the valley, so to speak. And then the orange arrows kind of demonstrate the slope away from the rest of the property. Now, the project site, again, is on one of the only flat spots of the property. Makes it very suitable for building. As you look away from any direction of the building, there's considerable slope, well-established wooded areas and tree lines that provide screening from adjoining properties. And also, you know, we'd really rather not folks go through clear-cutting trees if they don't have to. I've got a line drawn on there that approximates the distance of the proposed structure from the existing neighbor's home. It's a little over 500 feet. And again, this site is about 860 feet from Miners Branch Road. There should be very little, if any, visibility from either the adjoining property or the road frontage. And based on the slope, you know, across the property line, while I won't speak directly to anybody's actual intentions, it's very unlikely, given the slope and the wooded nature of the property, that would ever be used for development on that side, nor would the rear of the property with, you know, the dense woods back there either in the extreme slope. As such, you know, the applicant's statement of, you know, this being one of the only suitable building sites that's supported by essentially everything staff went through, and being that it's an agricultural zone parcel, we would like to not inhibit the owner's use in an agricultural fashion, as you see out there in the front of the parcel. Yes, I like it too. I'm gonna see how many different symbols I can come up with. So that's the gist of it. Again, just to summarize, the project site is about 28.5 acres out in A1 off Miners Branch. The topography, utility infrastructure, and sanitary sewer facilities inhibit construction on other areas. The topography of the project site and established tree lines and such provide screening and things from adjoining properties as well as the road frontage. The construction site is about 500 feet from the nearest structure on adjoining property, about 850, 860 from the road frontage at Miners Branch. So again, the front of the property is used for ag purposes, which are typical in A1 zones and also on adjoining properties. So in doing so, you know, the character of the property would be retained, as well as the full use of the property of the applicant. And the approval of this variance should not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, nor alter the essential character of the vicinity, or cause a hazard or nuisance to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations. Staff has found these findings. And overall, we do recommend approval of the application subject to our 4 standard conditions of approval for variances. Specifically for this instance, you know, please obtain a building permit from building inspection and whatever else may be appropriate, electrical, et cetera. And that's all I have, unless you have anything for myself or the applicant.
Any questions for Rhett? Is the applicant here this evening?
Yes, sir.
Anything you want to add to that?
No, sir.
All right, any questions? Any neighbors here that's on this application? All right.
No phone calls or anything from this one either.
The only thing you got going against you is that Ohio State hat. I'm just saying.
You're riling the whole audience.
Hold on, depends on what you're gonna say.
Yeah, all right, yeah, that's how that works. All right, got it. Put that hat back on. All right, I don't have any questions. I'll entertain a motion.
Can I make a motion to approve S 2025-03 based upon the conditions of approval from the staff?
All right, motion has been made by Tommy. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Janet seconds the motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. There are none. Motion carries.
Building inspection is probably gonna want that letter from us. Is Monday or so.
I did. Now you leave after I made fun of Ohio State? I mean, come on. I'm sorry.
Elise has to go too then, I guess, right?
All right. Say
Yes, sir. Yep, y'all take care, be safe over the weekend, okay?
Sorry for winners.
Yeah, she went to Ohio State.
Did you watch Working?
All right. My bad. Sorry. All right, get out. All right.
What is happening?
Sorry. It's bowl season. It gets a little nuts.
All right, and lastly this evening, this one's a little different. We're out Stonetown Road now, a little closer to Stamping Ground there. Again, it's a variance request to reduce the minimum lot width requirement from 250 feet, which is a standard of the zone, to 170 feet approximately for the construction of a home. North of Stamping Ground via Locust Fork onto Stonetown, just under 7 acres, about 6.8. There was a recent addition by consolidation, so I believe the number in your staff report's closer to 5, but hadn't been long ago that they consolidated from the north. Here's the parcel in question, little 7-shaped thing. I keep calling it upside down L, and that's just more difficult than it needs to be. Again, these are our required considerations for variance requests, same as the last application as well. See, I did it. Project is an L-shaped parcel. It's a 7 with approximately 200 feet of frontage along Stonetown Road. It does widen to approximately 660 feet or so once you get past the elbow. The applicant proposes to build their home approximately 380 feet from the frontage, and that area is about 170 feet wide. We typically require 250 feet of width at the building line per zoning standards. And the approximate footprint as supplied by the applicant, however, in this spot will still retain or exceed the required 50-foot setbacks from property lines in the zone. So in that manner, it is compliant. It would not require any other variances or considerations for the placement of the home itself from property lines. Applicant has stated that this location offers a much gentler slope than the rear of the property, providing a more suitable building site, and the research staff has done does support that as well. Let's see here. Also, allowing the home to be built in the place that they have requested also will allow them to use the rear of the property for agricultural, specifically equine use. And these uses are typically expected or encouraged in an A1 zone, and they are typical of surrounding and adjoining properties. So this is a zoom in of the property here. Just outside of the viewing area is where the property expands and heads off to the west. As you can see here, with the blue box being the approximate footprint of the house in the area they've requested, it is at least 50 feet from the nearest property lines, which would accommodate the setbacks as required in the zone of 50 feet. It's about 170 feet wide in its entirety there at the placement of the parcel. And it's proposed to be roughly 380 feet off the frontage of Stonetown Road. Again, this location would provide still suitable area for sanitary septic systems, as well as access to the rear of the property to be used for ag purposes, retain that character. And again, I'm leaning on my topographical data here. As you can see in the north and west portion of the property, as the lines get closer, the slope gets worse. Actually, this property eventually does slope away and to the west as water moves through from the north to the west onto a large pond in the next adjoining property. So there's considerable slope and water movement off-site and just beyond. The black house there is the house as proposed. As you can see, the contour lines are much further apart in that area, denoting a much gentler or lack of slope. So the statement given by the applicant is supported here by the data that it is a prime building spot without much adjustment to the land. Overall, we're just under 6.5 acres here out on Stonetown Road. The home is approximated to be 380 feet or so from the frontage at 170 feet of width at that point. The placement of the home would still accommodate the required 50-foot setbacks on each side. Applicant has stated allowing the construction of the home in the front of the parcel will allow for continued ag use in the rear. Ag uses are expected and are typical in this zone and in this area. All the properties around, for the most part, have some sort of ag function. In fact, the only phone call I did get is the adjoining property to the west is a large established cattle farm, and I believe they have sheep as well. He called, we chatted for a long time. Once he understood it was like a quarter of a mile from his nearest structure. Totally understood it. He was just hoping that the property would remain some sort of agricultural status, and that a home placement on the parcel wouldn't cause any disruption or conflict between he and his neighbor. Once the person that called understood that they intend to use the portion of the property that adjoins his for ag uses, he's totally fine with it. So, but that's the only communication I've had for any of these applications. Yeah, we already talked about all that. Approval of this variance should not or will not adversely affect the general public health, safety, or welfare, or alter the essential character of the general vicinity, especially with this ongoing allowed ag use in the rear, and it will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public, will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations. So again, overall recommending approval here with our standard 4 conditions of approval for a variance request, to include building permits from inspection office downtown.
Okay. Any questions for Rhett? The applicant is here, I assume? You guys are the only ones left, so I'm hoping that you all. Anything you want to add to that?
No, sir.
All right. Any questions for the applicant or Rhett or anybody? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve application S 2025-04, reducing the lot width requirement from 250 to 170 at 574 Stonetown Road, taking into account the 4 conditions of approval from staff.
All right, Sonia makes the motion. I will second the motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same. There are none. Motion carries.
Oh, what a
All right.
nice way to start the year.
Rhett, anything else?
I don't have anything further unless Holden or Elise do.
Holden, I am a Notre Dame fan. They're playing Georgia as we speak, so.
Okay, well, we're gonna get out of here.
We're fighters.
So this is just an update to a previous action taken by the board. Several months ago, a decision was made to send a zoning complaint investigation cease and desist letter to Adam Franklin with Turf Masters Quality Landscapes. We sent several copies of that letter. No response was received until, I guess, December 17th of this past month. We utilized your constable services and actually hand-delivered a copy of that letter. We still had not heard from the applicant until earlier today. And so the good news is that the applicant plans to come into the office and discuss this matter with us tomorrow. However, the bad news is we currently have not resolved this. The letter sent stated that this board would host a hearing on February 6th of 2025. Unless violations are corrected by January 10th, it would be my recommendation to continue the course on that. And so staff will meet with Mr. Franklin in the coming day, and then we will go from there. Ideally, obviously, the intent of any kind of action is to get compliance. And so, we just need to make sure that that is ultimately our goal in this process.
This gentleman is very good at skirting around the issues. We've seen this in the past, once before. I can see Elise shaking her head, so she agrees. Problem is, sometimes he will do things to hide what he's doing and then make other things look good. So I just want to make sure, because you're new to the system with us, I want to make sure that you have all the backup documentation that shows everything that he's been through, because he is a placater by sorts. So what will happen is, I'm taking care of that, I'll get rid of it, and then here we are a month ago, right? Mm-hmm. So I just want to make sure that you have all the ammunition that you need at your disposal, or any questions that you have. Now would be a good time.
We should, again, the letter that was sent to Mr. Franklin outlines exactly what the expectations are for this. Again, staff at this point just says continue with the idea to have that hearing in February, and I think that would be the the most transparent way to handle this moving forward.
I don't think you get any disagreement from us.
Okay, there you go. Thank you very much.
All right. In that case, we will call the Scott County Board of Adjustments, I almost said Education, Scott County Board of Adjustments to close at 5:25. I know I'm a mess tonight. All right, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah, you're a mess, but still, good job.
Thanks.
I like the 2025.
John Camella.